Hello, and welcome to our Easter Assembly. Normally at this time of year we have either an assembly or a collective worship or a church service to celebrate Easter in our schools. But because we can't do that together this Easter, I've recorded this story and a prayer so that you can join in with it if you would like to. As usual in our assemblies, I'm going to start with the gathering words and then I'm going to read you a story from the Bible. We have gathered together today to worship God, Father, Son and Holy Spirit, and to learn about the time that Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene after he had risen from the dead. And today we're thinking about the value of joy. At the end of a long and sleepless night, Mary set off with her spices to the garden where the body of her beloved Jesus had been buried. When she arrived, the first rays of sun were catching the branches of the trees, and the bird song was beginning to break the silence of the night. Everything as it always was. And yet, what was that? What had happened to the stone? Mary was rooted to the spot. She looked around, but no sight or sign of anyone. Who could possibly have rolled that huge stone away from the entrance of the cave where the body had been laid to rest? Jesus had gone. Immediately she ran back to where the disciples were hiding and told them. Peter and John sprung to their feet and ran flat out to the garden and found it just as Mary had described. The stone had been rolled away. They stepped forward and peered in. Peter, first of all, crouching down, touching the strips of linen that had been wrapped around Jesus' body, just lay there, neatly folded. The body was gone. Wild thoughts were now racing round the disciples' heads as they began to recall the strange words that Jesus had once used about rising from the dead. What were they to believe? An unrecognizable joy was beginning to bubble up as they returned to the other disciples. Mary, meanwhile, was still in the garden, and all she could do was weep. After a long, long time, she found the courage to slowly step up into the tomb. What a shock! 2 angels, dazzling white, sat before her. Where they were sitting, one where the head and one where the feet of Jesus would have been. She had no idea what was going on. Then one of them spoke. "Why are you crying?" She replied, "Because they've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they've put him." Still in a daze, Mary made it back into the garden and sat down on the nearest patch of grass, tears streaming down her face. She didn't see the person come and stand just beside her. He spoke to her very gently. "Why are you crying?" Assuming he was most probably the gardener, Mary asked, "Sir, if you've taken the body that was in the tomb, please tell me where you've put it now." "Mary," came the reply. A cold shiver went down her spine. She knew that voice. She knew exactly whose voice that was. Only one man could speak to her name with such love. Mary turned round and leaned towards Jesus, reaching out to take hold of his robes. One word on her lips. "Master." "Don't cling to me now," Jesus said. "There is no need any more, but go and tell all the disciples what you have seen and say to them, I am returning to my Father, the same one who is your Father and their Father, your God and their God." And Mary did exactly that, with joy flooding her bursting heart. Now, at the moment in our world, there's lots of uncertainty and lots of things are different and lots of things aren't as we expect them to be. And the message of this story is sometimes difficult to connect to the way that we're feeling at the moment. But the story of Jesus' death and resurrection is one of hope and one of peace for the world and for each of us to have the opportunity to know Jesus for ourselves and to trust him that whatever happens in the world around us, then he will be with us and he will be there for us. So I'm going to close this assembly with a prayer now that you can join in with if you'd like to, but you don't have to. You can just listen to it and just think about kind of the world around us and maybe think about the people who are helping anybody who isn't very well at the moment. Lord, thank you for loving us more than life itself. At the moment, life is hard and uncertain. There's pain and hurt and heartache. And yet, knowing this, you were still willing to give up your life and become God with us and the God who rescues us. Today and every day, help us to fix our hearts and our minds on you. And as we do, please give us more of your joy, hope, and peace. Amen. So as I come to the end of this assembly, I hope that you have a really lovely Easter, even though it'll be a bit different to normal. Enjoy lots of chocolate, lots of eggs, and all those sort of things, and have a very, very happy Easter. Goodbye.